Hello and welcome to River Darling Art and ASMR. And today we're going to have a little chat. You're going to keep me company, I'm going to keep you company, and I'm going to have a go at drawing this old turkey here. Now I must confess, this is one of those pieces where I've had it for a fair while. You know what? I got a bit nervous because Christmas came and went, and I originally chose this bird to draw as an unusual bird, so an aesthetically different, sort of evolutionarily niched creature. And then Christmas came and went, and I didn't want to feel like I was going, oh, I'm doing a turkey because it's Christmas. I wanted to do a turkey because I felt like, you can probably see my shadow moving around as I sort of project my thoughts here. We will get into view a little bit more in just a second. But I didn't want to sort of undermine it as an animal by sort of going, oh, here it is at Christmas. It would be like if I were doing a vegetable series and, you know, on the 18th of December, suddenly I just upload a sprout. I love sprouts. I don't know why I really spat that word there. So this is why this sort of became a little bit sort of stagnant for me. So I thought one of the best things I could do with this now is to use it as a starting point and for us to just have a little bit of fun with it. So I can see before I started filming, I'd already put the purple out, and I probably wasn't going to start with this, but we might start with darkening the purple, seeing as I'm so readily prompted by my own environment. And why wouldn't we be? We are all products of our environment, or products in denial of our environment, which is equally valid. So, without further ado, let's get started. So I'm going to start with a moderately sized brush here, and I'm just going to dip a little bit into my palette, just to make a start. And I think I might go in quite heavy with this time, just to get the ball rolling, I suppose. It'd be really fun if you have any unfinished art or any art that's sort of gone a little bit stale, if you want to grab it out and just to have a little bit of fun together, and we'll see what happens. Right, so I've got this, and all my brushes end up a little bit kind of crooked, and I really do try and take care of them. So I'm really going to go in quite heavy with where all these shadows are. So, I think this is called it's called something adorable. It's called a cowl or a snoot. You know what? I think it should just be called a snoot now. But they can kind of, I don't know whether this is a word that's going to get this video flagged up slightly, but they can kind of, I won't use the E word, I will say they can slightly blow up this appendage here. And sort of when the bird is excited, it just kind of like, yeah, it expands and it stands up, and it's genuinely quite a cute thing. I've followed a few people who sort of do bird rescues and bird sanctuaries, and with some of their tame turkeys, it's adorable. It's lovely. And they seem to be really gentle birds, actually. I've never owned one myself. I've never met one sort of personally myself. But they seem to be very, very gentle, and obviously if you've got all that exposed skin, then they're quite kind of tactile, as I suppose you would be if you've got such sensitive areas on your face that a lot of birds don't. I mean, a lot of birds are all, to be honest with you, birds are a big feathery erogenous zone. But I suppose there must be something quite vulnerable, perhaps, when you're looking at a creature that has got such sensitivity. I mean, I say that, but you also have a bird like a duck where the sensitivity of their bill, where obviously they're putting it down in the mud and they're putting it down in the water where there might be sort of low visibility due to sort of dirt and pollutants in the water, it's about as sensitive as your fingertips are. And that's, I love that. And if anyone's had the fortune to interact with a duck, you can tell I really like birds. Then once they're sort of comfortable with you, they really do like their bill being interacted with. And especially when they are young, they really like if you would hold their bill in your fingers or in a space where they can kind of like dig it in, because it replicates that sort of feeling of security and safety of being under their mother's wing or their surrogate mother's wing. And yeah, no, it just makes them feel really safe. They're just lovely. Ducks are wicked. I shouldn't say ducks are lovely. Ducks are wicked creatures. But they are beguiling, and as all wicked creatures tend to be, yes. I think. So this area is really quite textured. These bits are kind of like creases and folds and lines in the skin, and then when you get more down to here, the line work doesn't quite show that to the degree, but it's almost like they are oh gosh, what's that thing you get on your feet when they're all sore? They're kind of like corns. They're sort of very rounded, and quite a lot of them have like a little indent right in the top. So they kind of look a little bit like corns. They're very rounded and sort of distinctly shaped. So there we go. This is like a lovely big round bald blob at the end here. Some of the animals that I keep are Muscovy ducks, and they have very similar red bald crunkles around the face. It's more prominent in males than in females. And it's very soft. It's very soft. It's again, it's just an amazing thing. Now, I haven't actually looked too much into it, because obviously with things like vultures, they tend to have less skin around their face due to the tendency to eat carrion, and I haven't actually looked into if that's the case with Muscovy ducks, although it is something I've thought about before. Yeah, no, I really must look that up. It's one of those things that, you have those thoughts and they crop up and they seem to be all sort of, oh wow, no, I've had this thought before and it's fascinating and I'm interested and I'd love to look it up, and you just sort of think like, oh no, I wouldn't forget that. And there I am and I see the ducks every day, and then I forget it. So hopefully I might actually look that up. I could have an answer for you next video if I remember. If I don't, you're more than welcome to comment below and go, did you actually look up that question about your animals that you have? Which, it's always interesting to understand the etymology of the creatures around you, and especially if you are a caretaker to them. But there we go. I don't have any carrion, so that's never really been a direct concern of mine in their welfare. There we go. So just building this up a little bit. So this is obviously a purple colour, and in reality the crunkles are they're quite like a holly berry. Oh, we're really going with that theme, aren't we? With a holly berry red, or a yew tree red, that real kind of like, is it cerise? And it's a bit like that. Whereas I think where I'm going in with purples, where this flesh around here on the face is quite blue, and I'll be able to blend the purple quite nicely into that blue, and then I can kind of make the cold colours your background colour, so your less dominant colours. I think I spoke about this in my stag video, if you have watched that. If not, there's It was a three-parter. I might reinstate the previous videos, but the production values were somewhat lacking during my learning processes. I'm sure it will hopefully continue to improve in the future. But I tend to think of sort of colder colours as being sort of recessive and they're in the background. So if I'm building up a painting, then I will go for something quite I'll go for like cold colours, blue colours, and then once I'm at a layer where I think sort of this is the foreground and this is the part that I want to be a lot more dominant, then I will use like much more active and warm and striking colours. So I think what I would do then is that would be when I would move into that very bright red colour to like really make things pop. But this kind of part I like to think of as sort of finding the shape, so finding the form. It's still an underpainting, but it's the part of the underpainting that sort of will still be visible when it's finished. I should just say quickly, the blobs here, I'm trying to do this in the most respectful way to this creature, but the blobs it has here, the warty corny blobs, are a much more white colour, so I'm going to try and sort of fade in my purple a little bit more rather than go in very heavily with it. So yeah, just around here. Gosh, I feel like that's sort of where my brain sort of reached a happy place where it's gone, oh okay, horticorny blobs. I don't need to think about anything else further to say now. I've found something that's sort of surreal and I can mull that over for a little bit now and not sort of worry too much about about anything particular. I kind of like that though, when you find a point, even if it was sort of an unexpected point where you sort of think, oh, I'm happy to sit with that thought. I do apologise again if you can hear my chair creaking in the background. This is a new chair. My last chair was dreadful. I had to stay very, very still. It was like, do you know those cars where you know that person's car is coming? It was a chair like that. It would just sort of shriek into the night, and it did its duty. It's now actually on the other side of the room. It's still going, but it's not for ASMR, I don't think, and it's not for soft spoken. Which I hope this is. I know I have a tendency to get a little bit excited, so I do try and remain calm. But I hope even if I'm not being terribly calm, then at least it's comforting and companionable, and I know that's definitely things that I like to look for when I need a little bit of solstice or a little bit of company or a little bit of if your thoughts are in that place where they're overflowing and they're running away with themselves, and sometimes you have to accept you can't stop those thoughts or slow those thoughts, but it's nice sometimes to just have that sense of community, to have a familiar voice in the background, or to have just that sense of not being on your own, I think is quite important. So I think we might be at a place where I might put down me pink. It's not pink, it's purple. But it's very, 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 very pink purple. So I think I might get my blue out now. So I've got my blue ink now. Just so it's more in the accessible part. A little bit more. There we go. Put my lid back on. Perfect. Right, and a little bit of green that appeared there. Righty. So gonna probably build up this little area. Oh, I might want that a bit more blue. Do I want that more blue? Let me think. No, No, we're not going to go more blue just now, but I have a feeling this is going to run quite a bit. So we're just going to do it. We're just going to let it go for it, because the blue is a very passive colour in this thing, so if it wants to do a bit of running, it can do a bit of running. We'll be okay with that, we'll survive. So add it back in to really see where it's a complementary colour, where it's a colour that's a component of the purple. It's really nice to add a bit of depth to it, and it doesn't seem to break the rule. It's still purple. It's just on the bluer shade, and that's what I really like about building up with cold colours, or building up with complementary colours. And then you can always go over with like something much more striking. Just going to follow this around. So in this little area sort of underneath where I'm just pushing it up into now, it's mostly sort of a very glossy black, but you have some feathers that are kind of a little bit prominent. They're sticking up a little bit, because I think he is he's trying to be, you know, he's trying to be all that. So he's got his feathers ever so slightly raised. I'm assuming it's a boy. That's dreadful. It might not be. I really think it might be a boy, just because of the caruncles. So I might I'm just finding the form, and I might, so that we keep the sort of weight in this part of the picture, I might allow it to really bleed out in a way that I don't sort of solidify what I'm finding down here. I'm gonna, make it a little bit rough and a little bit soft, and we could actually leave it sort of as it is now and really pour in the detail up at the top. And where this is a picture where the balance, I wouldn't say the balance is off, but the balance is quite subtle, because it's really sort of right side heavy, although I've tried to balance where the eye is, so this side of the eye to the tip of the beak, so you've kind of got a roughly equal distance between that part and that part. So it's balanced, but it's it doesn't necessarily need to be grounded in that space there. So I might, so yeah, I'm literally gonna scrumple my last little bit there. I'm going to scrumple it all in these areas just to literally find the shape. I really hope I don't say literally too much. If I do, tell me off in the comments down below. And then this bit's kind of dipped in, so we go under the cheekbone. There we go, beautiful. See, that found the form really nicely, and it kind of gives you much more shape to push in your lines and your forms. And this is a bit more sort of red and crunkly, and I haven't really filled that in to a huge degree. I am going to need more blue now. I'm just going to finish. Yeah, I like that. Okay. A little bit of blue. Ba-da-bum-bum. So I find, especially with things like this, patience. Although when I really started working on art that was explicitly done for me, I really started out using acrylics, and acrylics are incredibly fast. They dry fast, they go on fast, and if you're using them thickly, then you can really build up colour quick. There's a slight little bit of something on the end of there. We're going to get rid of that. We don't want any of that. But the difference was that it's quite forgiving. You build up the texture of your strokes underneath, but if you really wanted to, you can get out that white and you can just sort of go straight over that canvas. You can raise the whole thing. You can raise whole parts of it. You can do really light washes to lighten parts of it. And the thing about ink and acrylic, ink and watercolor, is you just can't. There are ways in sort of salvaging, and there's ways in repairing, or that you can lighten, but it's difficult. But it is a bit of a one-shot affair. So I would say just go slowly. And it's still nerve-wracking because it's still a process that, oh my goodness, it takes a long time. Anything takes a long time. So my initial work on this maybe took me about an hour or 2 hours, depending on what I'm doing. Because I think sometimes I'm listening to something or watching something in the background, and you know what it's like, depending on how much your TV program draws you in, sort of the less focused on the thing you think like you're going to be doing while you're watching that thing. But it is so easy to make a mistake. So I would always say work from light to dark and slowly, unless you've got like a very naive style, and I envy that tremendously. I love naive styles. I love really blocky stuff, so sort of the things that sort of remind you of neo-traditional tattoo styles, with thick black lines and your solid colours. I love that style of art. It is something I want to practice a little bit more in the future. But I also find there's something quite meditative in sort of this real illustration where you're allowed the leeway to kind of make it a little bit floaty, to kind of make it a little bit washy, while still sort of maintaining accuracy. And I really enjoy that. I couldn't do it all the time. I could get burnout from it really easily if it was sort of all I was doing. But it's a really nice. That sounds terribly big-headed, doesn't it? Oh, it's a really nice way to work the thing that I do, that I'm doing now. I don't mean it like that, but it's something that sort of I didn't intend to sort of set out and do. It just happened. So I suppose it's sort of what happens when my brain sort of finally slows down, switches off, and just sort of thinks about, I don't know, it thinks about colour. It sort of stops worrying about what's happened that day, what's happened that week, what's happening tomorrow, and it just concentrates on the colour. And yeah, I really like that. I think it would calm me down more than if I were creating something where I was actively creating as I'm drawing. So this is pretty much laid out. It's just sort of following references, it's following instinct, it's sort of playing about with the same set colours. So I think it's a lot more meditative and quiet than if I were working on a design out of the blue. That's why I hope you would enjoy watching me do it. I suppose it relaxes me. I normally have to apologise. I get too fast in my videos, but I could feel myself getting quite sleepy and complacent actually. So what did I call them? The sacks, the balls. On the back of the head, the nubules. I'm just gonna sort of outline them slightly in blue, where they've got the shadows and where they're much more white. And you can kind of see the skin underneath in the reference picture is quite grey looking. And I might just very gently outline that at the back just to kind of help it pop a little bit more. And I might go over this with pencil, so this might not be a strictly watercolour thing. So I use pencils that I believe are oil-based, so they slightly repel ink unless I was to use it very thickly, in which case I can go over it. But I like that means that I can't eradicate the texture of the pencil, even when I sort of think, actually, no, I really want to deepen that colour with a bit more ink in that space. I'm just going to lighten that a little bit because I don't want to go in too heavy with these bits because it's predominantly red, but I do want to use the blue as a shadow. There we go. And then a little bit more around the back here, where we are just scrumbling. I always think of it as scrumbling. There's beautiful, I think, a lot of the Italian words for methods of applying paint. To just sort of graffito, and staccato, and I think of this as scrumbling because you're kind of you're real yum over the air. That makes no sense. I hope what you can see I'm doing where it's quite dry, and in places I'm pushing the paintbrush rather than dragging it. So I'm really kind of like working out the very dry amount of paint that I've got left inside the bristles. So I'm not really applying wetness, so there's no chance of anything running, but I am still sort of pushing paint in, if that makes sense, or pushing pigment in. There we go. So I quite like that again. Let me think. So this bit needs to blend a lot more. This has this is predominantly red, and it's actually, we're going to go much lighter than that. So it comes up in a few little dots where it kind of blends into the blue, and it's just very lined how it wrinkles in. There we go. Not sure how that ended up quite as prominent as it did. That's the sort of moments when you look back and you think sort of, oh, what have I been talking about? I've been trying to give names to the things here very badly. Okay. I'm going to put a little bit. So the colour here is actually quite green, but again, because it's a darker colour, because I really want to make sure the outline feels quite prominent, I'm going to go from blue. I'm going to go over this in blue again, like so. And there's a little bit of scrumbling behind this, just to really push it forward a little bit more. So this really hasn't got any shade to it at all. It's coming straight down the head. The most shadow it's got is just here, where it seems to go from what slightly haired forehead. So there's ever so slight lighter again. There's ever so slight little indentations with the tiniest of little hairs just on the top, and I won't add that until the very end, just in case there's any paint running. I'm just going to make a few more marks just to kind of really help find the forms, and then I think we might be leaving it at a resting place for today. It's really nice to look at things in the morning and you can kind of see where they were going, and you can see any potential problems with them or anything sort of you became blind to. Like I sort of became a little bit blind to sort of this area here that really needed pushing back. I'm just going to make that nostril a little bit darker as well. I think I'm quite happy to leave it there for tonight. So there we are. Thank you very much for spending this time with me, and I will see you again next time.